You said about the more attention everyone knows, the more that I do it. Yeah. Like the more attention, the more that we talk about food, the more that we want it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the more we talk about, oh my gosh.
No wonder I'm so hungry right now. Psychological.
Trying to be in that clinic for 8 hours.
Yeah, no kidding.
But the more that we talk about the desire to lose weight, we actually get the opposite effect. And it especially happens with eating disorders. So the more that this guy wanted weight loss, the more he ate. And it was eating in opposition.
So yourself, what's the dang word? I mean, you're trying to self-actualize, but you're not self-actualizing, you're self-sabotaging.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not consciously, right?
Yeah, you're not doing it. Yeah, of course. You never want to do something that's not in your favor.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Makes sense.
What's interesting is I wonder what actually causes that.
The list goes on. I mean, it can be anything from just concepts in the past to, psychological issues to
coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it could be a multitude of different things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that one of the things with veterans when with eating disorders is this clear black and white.
Oh yeah. Everything's black and white for military.
Which sets you up for failure.
Oh, 100%. Everything's truly in a gray area. We just like black and white. It's much more simplistic.
It's easier to manage.
Oh, 100%.
Either I can have this food or I can't have this food. It's either good or bad. There's no middle. No, everything in moderation means there is a middle.
Yep.
Now, where does that middle look like here for you? What does that middle look like for somebody else? That's all going
changes.
To be... Mm-hmm. Yep. So getting people to be able to have that moderation when we look at... I can't control how much I eat, so I'm just going to skip. I'm going to skip lunch because that's beneficial.
Yeah, and then you run into the same exact spot where, okay, now I'm eating more because I didn't eat for this. And
right.
Now my meals look like 3.
The dieter's dilemma.
Yep.
That's that cycle.
Well, I skipped those 2, so I should be able to have them all at once. Yeah, that's not how it works.
And then you're thinking that's the conscious, but there's also physiological response as well. So it's more than just the conscious thought of, well, I didn't have those, so I can have a little bit more. Mm-hmm. It is your body seeking homeostasis too and survival. So it sets you up for failure all the way around.
There's more roadblocks than there are straightaways.
It's funny.
It's kind of how it is, though.
It is, especially when it comes to food and weight and the thinking and our thoughts around it, especially that black and white, all or nothing, can't have it. And the more we say we can't have it, the more we want it.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, it's just like the whole concept. They talk about it in multiple different things. If I tell you not to think about a fox with a white tail, it's the first thing you're going to think about because you're told not to. It's just how we are.
Yep. Brings it attention to it, and now it's illuminated.
Yep, as soon as you bring attention to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I think about, like, in intuitive eating, when we talk about that, I want what I can't have. So somebody that would say their fear food or their off limits food, I can't be trusted with this food, mm-hmm. right? So they will say, I can't be trusted with this food. I should never have this food. This food is bad. Yeah. That's my off limits food. Is that the more that we say that and the more we stay away from it, the more desire we have for it. So what we do in intuitive eating is actually the habituation effect. So that is including it in on a regular basis. Yeah,
I figured you were going to say putting it on my shelves every single time.
because there's going to be a point where you're like, I can't eat any more pizza. Yep. And people will say, no, you don't understand. I will eat pizza. No, you'll find that there is a point where you're done with it.
Yeah, and when you're stuck in the hospital, you can't get it. That's when you don't have it anymore.
But it is part of like the treatment for, say, binge eating would be that exposure therapy, and realize that you can control yourself with some of that food and find that satisfaction. So it's not that black and white can't have.
No, makes sense.
Yeah, easier said than done.
Yeah, oh yeah. Everything's always easier said than done.
Oh yeah. Yep, that's those triggers.
Yeah. There's plenty of them.
Sugar, salt, fat. The trifecta.
Trifecta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. There's quite a bit with it. I have quite a bit of information on that.
I thought the trifecta was just cheese and cheese curds.
That's funny. Breaded.
so yeah, there's breaded, unbreaded, and regular cheese. I mean, that's the trifecta right there. It's Wisconsin perfect. I forgot. Beer's in there somewhere.
Yeah, we didn't have the alcohol into it. But cheese curds, breaded Wisconsin cheese curds are the trifecta.
Oh, yeah.
They are
it's everything.
the saturated fat that makes it nice and creamy, the salt, the starch. It just doesn't have as much sugar in it. The sugar is another component of the trifecta, but it could be either starch or sugar. This is where we get some of those crazy combinations that people find.
Oh, the sweet and salty.
And fat.
Yeah.
It's with the bacon wrapped.
Everything.
Trying to remember what it is. Well, chocolate bacon.
Well, yeah, there's chocolate bacon. There's candy bacon where they have it around whatever sweet. There's
like a candy bar, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what the idea is it's combining the sugar, salt, and fat, and alone they don't do the same thing.
That's like bacon and water chestnuts. I think is one of them that's really good.
Huh, that's interesting.
Is it water chestnuts? Is it?
The sugar, salt, and fat, what it does is it hijacks your reward centers in your brain. So your normal, like...
Mine have always been hijacked.
Our normal dopamine response. Always.
I'm just fluffy.
So, that combination, manufacturers have been able to identify like this perfect place. If they change the combination, it's like, nope, that's too salty, or no, that's too much fat. There is this perfect combination of sugar, salt, and fat, the trifecta. It was a grocer that I worked with one time. He said, Dana, you can... I don't care what healthy foods you want in this grocery store. I know what sells, and it's the trifecta.
Oh, yeah.
So he's the one who coined the term trifecta in my world. Because he knew that that's what everybody craved. They didn't care. When the trifecta was there, we don't care about broccoli. We don't care about any of those other foods. But it hijacks our reward centers, so we no longer get satisfaction in the things that used to be satisfying. So we go after those high-intensity foods at a higher rate. And it's similar to any addiction. So, like with addiction, you get a tolerance.
Yeah.
So whatever level was good is no longer good, and I need more and more in order to be able to attain that. And that is what happens with the trifecta.
Well, it's like when they were doing, they did a bunch of scans on people with sugar, set off different receptor areas that you would normally have for like hardcore drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is wild.
Yes, cocaine. There's the sugar, brain on cocaine.
Regular sugar versus booger sugar.
Yep. But I believe it is in relation to dopamine.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's all it is. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin.
Yeah. So when I think about, in my perspective, when I think about dopamine is like this happy hormone that's like this quick hit. It's like this real quick, that was good. But it doesn't stay. And I think of serotonin as this like baseline that it's not as high, right? It's not as good, but it gives us this baseline feeling of feeling good. What we get from exercise. So if we have this baseline, it decreases the need for that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Does that sound like your perspective?
That sounds kind of. Yeah, that actually works. I was thinking like skiing, like water skiing. Dopamine would be the initial pull up, and then serotonin would be when you're actually on the water and you're planed out.
Yep. Okay, so that
Yeah. Kind of one's more level.
But dopamine isn't bad.
No, they're both good. They're both really good. You need them obviously, and it's the happy drugs. So I mean, they're just the natural. Making you happy and stuff like that, and the different things that make you happy, but you can't be in that state all the time.
Right.
And the problem is there's too many people that are in the opposite state where they're too stressed all the time. So they're getting all these dopamine and everything released. It's just not doing enough because you're trying to paint a wall with not even a toothbrush, just a needle pen.
Yep. I saw. That just reminded me of a meme that I saw on one of the social media platforms, and it was a guy painting a line on a highway with a paintbrush, handbrush, like you would paint a picture with. But it was about perfection. No. Don't let your perfection impede progress.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh yeah, that is a good one.
That is a good one.
So, but I think, because I think dopamine gets, especially in the food arena, from where I am, gets a really negative connotation to it. Of course. But it's not. It's what drives our connection, right? Mm-hmm. It drives.
It's, multiple different things. I mean, just even talking to someone, you'll have a dopamine release. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's in everything you do.
Which relates to psychological hunger. Mm-hmm. Yes. That's why we need that social interaction.
Yeah, you need that social interaction. Yeah. People don't realize isolation changes so many concepts, everything from eating to the way you do anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to talk to other people, and I don't like it most days either. Every now and then, it's okay.
That's funny. But I think dopamine is that it's also what drives people to eat, mm-hmm. right? Because
it's the satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. Part of it. But we have a lot of different hormones, hunger hormones. I think of most of our hunger hormones are related to satisfying and make us feel satisfied with a meal as opposed to driving hunger. We only have one. Ghrelin is the only one that actually drives hunger. But CCK is a hunger hormone in our gut that when you eat protein and when you eat fat, not carbohydrates, so sugar doesn't affect CCK, that it actually turns on CCK, which it makes you feel satisfied with that meal. So there's a whole array of them, but most of our hunger hormones are satisfaction hormones. And we typically talk about dopamine in that sense, but I think dopamine is. No. Right? It keeps you satisfied with that meal.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Drives good and bad hunger, at least. So I think veterans, it seemed to me in my experience, and I maybe correct me if I'm wrong, almost need more of a dopamine. And I'm curious, is that related to trauma?
Yes. So it's not necessarily that it's more is needed. It's more of the fact that there's more negative connotation with things because of trauma. So it's taking more time, more effort, more dopamine to get the same effect as what you would normally have.
Ah, okay.
So we're not
almost
starting
like
at the same line. Yeah, almost like a tolerance.
Okay.
So the more you have a tolerance to something, the harder it is to get the effect from it. And that's kind of where it's coming from with a lot of veterans, and a lot of it comes from either PTSD, head injuries, where, like with me, head injury, my chemical balances are going to be different than what they were before that.
Chemical meaning dopamine balances.
Well, between dopamine and all of them. Yeah. So all of them. So dopamine may affect me completely different than it would, me before my head injury or another person because of the difference that changed with that. And same thing happened with PTSD. You start releasing things at a different rate, different levels. So you're kind of at that point chasing that high. Mm-hmm. With, unfortunately, lack of better terms, chasing that high than anything else.
The reward.
Yep.
But I think about that, and you saying that change of this is where I was and what I identify with myself, and it changing, and I'm no longer there. I've experienced that. That can be traumatic.
Yep.
Because this is who I am. This is what I identify with, and I'm no longer here.
Yep.
I no longer can. You almost grieve the loss of yourself.
Well, and the hardest part is when you realize that, where it's you don't feel like yourself anymore because something changed so dramatically. That's the hard part.
Interesting. I have Graves' disease, and it had related to weight. Mm-hmm. So Graves' disease is hyperthyroid, and hyperthyroid, typically most people can't gain weight. Mm-hmm. They have a really hard time. I had the opposite experience, and I gained weight. So, but it changed all of those hormones and the communicators. So everything that I knew what to do for me, how to maintain my weight, how to be fit, you just throw it out the door.
Nope,
it no longer exists. So now I'm figuring out this new body and what that means on top of a gaining weight, but I have a high heart rate and I'm told not to exercise. And it feels like you're beating your head against the wall. And it is traumatic with that experience saying, I want me back.
Yep.
And you're never going to get me back.
You're never going to meet you again.
Mm.
I mean, that's just me compared to when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, me then compared to now, it's just two completely different people.
But we all want that back, don't we?
Yeah.
Dana, I want to fit into, I'm 65 years old, but I want to fit into that uniform that I fitted in 20, when I graduated.
That's kind of how it goes. Yeah, you'll never quite be the same.
But our brain is there.
Oh, yeah.
Our brain thinks that we're still there.
Like I said earlier, the most important part of the body. The thing that tells you that it's the most important part of the body.
Yeah, that's a good tie-in, yes. Mm-hmm. It's that ego.
Yeah. And that's kind of, that's where it comes from, is you sit there and you try to be something that you're not anymore. And you have to...
But hold on to it at least.
Well, yeah. And change is always, it's the scary word. Everybody's always afraid of change. And I get it. We all are. But change isn't necessarily... Change. But it's not, if you loved it to the point that it was easy, it would be one thing, but it's never easy. Change is always the hard thing. So we like change after the changes occur, but not during.
Right.
You hate it when it's going on, but afterwards you're like, oh, that was easy. And you're like, you were crying the whole time. You didn't like it. It's just fine now.
I had to coach you through that weight loss experience.
You're out of the dip. You're fine now, but during the dip, you weren't very happy.
I always think of this change as, and maybe this is what I've held on to, is that I can't grow without change. Mm-hmm. So if you want growth, you need to be okay with change.
You do.
Yeah, and I think everybody has a different varying level and they're okay with it.
Yeah, of course. And there's one thing that could be a very small change for me could be a huge change for you. I mean, it's never going to be the same.
Yeah. That was going back to those perceptions. And what built your perceptions may have built that ability to change, or that confidence would change.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did with my daughter, because she hates change, is I would have to force her to do it. And then once she got there, we would have to think through, was that as bad as what your mind was making it up to be? And realize that it wasn't as bad and that you could make it through it, to build that confidence to be able to be a little bit more courageous.
Well, it's like you were talking about with the guy that started running again, the marathon runner. Mm-hmm. It's just that one step at a time, 1 mile at a time.
Yeah.
And it's
a mental game.
Yeah, it's a mental game. Everything comes down to a mental game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing.
So you got to make your brain work for you, not the other way around. And that's the hard part, is trying to get it to work for you, not against you.
My dad told me to make my money work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not to work for my money. It's kind of the same concept.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know how well that's worked, but